You are now listening to Mr. Z Blackneffect.
What's going on, y'all? What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat on the way in. So this is a shout out to Saint Cyr. So Saint Cyr has been sending me stuff from UK Mary Poppins. Her actual tag name is Cultivating Bowl Spaces on TikTok. Shout out to her. And I just wanted to freestyle a few ideas or thoughts that I had concerning a couple of her videos that Saint Cyr sent. And I was hoping you would be here. And Saint Cyr says, just in time, Z, I'm in the gym doing a doubleheader since it's cold as hell tomorrow. Pull day and leg day. Pull up day, I think you mean the pull day and leg day. Okay. And so Saint Cyr, this is actually for you in specific. So we'll be addressing a few things, and there's something I want to kind of emphasize. So we'll play these videos and then we'll get to it, right? So continuing.
White women often express frustration when black men don't see the potential of feminism, but I think what a lot of us need to take into account is we belong to a class of people who have continuously distorted the feminist movement and made it a very hostile place for black men and a lot of other men to be. The way that Bell Hooks writes about feminism, it's not just about women's rights, it's about dismantling domination altogether. But the mainstream feminist movement, driven by white women, has been much more invested in, first and foremost, giving white women the same kind of power and privileges that white men have, and creating spaces in which women can vent their rage about men. And this is very disappointing. While I consider myself a practitioner of feminist philosophy, I often find myself alienated by certain pockets of the movement. And if I'm feeling alienated, a lot of other people are going to be feeling alienated too. Black men are constantly hearing white women describe them as their oppressors, which is honestly wild considering the role that white women have played in the oppression of black men. And when we're not weaponizing the word oppressor, another problem of ours is being condescending about what feminism does for black men, because really it's been white Western men who've had the easiest access to the benefits of feminism. The concept of white womanhood is, I think, one of the most oppressive tools in the world, and white women and feminism are often totally blind to the way that we weaponize this ourselves. When men are treated as disposable, suspect, or undeserving of empathy, that does not dismantle patriarchy, it just reproduces it. Feminism is supposed to be about restoring humanity, and that will only work if it invests in and includes everyone. If the feminist movement cannot honestly grapple with the lived experiences of black men and men in general and the role that women play in their subjugation, then it will utterly fail in its own promise of social transformation. If you want a more detailed look at this topic, I have made a longer video on this, so go check out the last video in this series. I am of the view that white womanhood as a construct is one of the most oppressive tools on this planet. Welcome to the Bell Hooks Book Club! So I know this book is about black women and feminism, but I do think it would be a shame to spend all this time talking about white women's behaviour in feminism and not talk about the impact on black men. Bell Hooks' key dilemma in this book is that she's completely on board with the philosophy of feminism, but she's disappointed by how in practice the movement is distorted by white supremacist, classist, capitalist thinking. To me, feminism is not simply a struggle to end male chauvinism or a movement to ensure that women will have equal rights with men. It is a commitment to eradicating the ideology of domination that permeates Western culture on various levels, sex, race, and class to name a few, and a commitment to reorganising US society so that the self-development of people can take precedence over imperialism, economic expansion, and material desires. This focus on self-development is a big theme in another one of Hooks' books, The Will to Change, which we've covered before in this series. With traditional gender dynamics being a power struggle and the mainstream feminist movement being a power struggle, the self-development of boys and men is not prioritised anywhere. The Will to Change really brings to light the ways in which women are complicit in the subjugation of men. Subjugation meaning the action of bringing someone under domination or control. And again in this book she expresses disappointment with how feminist practice is not living up to feminist philosophy. Feminist philosophy offers a path away from the horrors of male socialisation, but too many feminists in practice have distorted feminism with an anti-male sentiment, which means we never actually get on with that work. Coming back to this book, which was actually written before The Will to Change, the women's movement has become a kind of ghetto or concentration camp for women who are seeking to attain the kind of power they feel men have. It provides a forum for the expression of their feelings of anger, jealousy, rage, and disappointment with men. It provides an atmosphere where women who have little in common, who may resent or even feel indifferent to one another, can bond on the basis of shared negative feelings towards men. And so this brings us on to the tricky topic of feminism is just man-hating. A lot of men use that phrase to dismiss feminism entirely, even in the face of feminist analysis that's actually focusing on improving their lives. And when that happens, when they're just seeking to be dismissive and destructive, obviously I'm going to argue against that. However, when those who actually care about the potential of feminism point out the anti-male sentiment that is distorting the movement, I'm absolutely in agreement with that. If we're going to be constructive, we need to look at that because it is holding us back. Lots of feminists are completely blind to the ways in which women are complicit in the subjugation of men and are totally hostile to the idea of feminism liberating men. A common refrain on this front is, why are we the only group being asked to centre our oppressors? And this brings me to black men specifically, because if black men are constantly hearing white women describe them as their oppressors, well, it's not exactly going to endear them towards feminism, is it? opposite. I am of the view that white womanhood as a construct is one of the most oppressive tools on this planet. So much of Western society is shaped around putting the idea of white womanhood on a pedestal, and this then dictates how all men and all women are supposed to behave. White women have an extremely complicated relationship with this, right? Because the pedestal effect is not liberating, it's very dehumanizing, and we're pretty good at recognizing that and talking about that. However, it is undeniable that this pedestaling of white womanhood, while on one hand oppressive to white women, is also the means by which we are able to subjugate and oppress everyone else. It is vital that white women understand that the reason that black men have been mythologized as rapists is to protect an idea of white womanhood. It is to frame white women as pure and virtuous, and then give white men an excuse to enact their racist violence in the name of protecting women. The lynching of Emmett Till is probably the most commonly cited example of this. This white woman, Carolyn Bryant, claimed that 14-year-old Emmett Till had sexually harassed her, and as an act of protection, her husband and her brother-in-law kidnapped and murdered Till. While we'll never know exactly what happened, she did confess in 2008 that she lied about what happened. Way too many white women now look at a story like that and go, I can't believe she did that, that could never be me. But there's an arrogance in just assuming that we are any less a product of our racist environment than Carolyn Bryant was of hers. Yes, times have changed, laws have changed, cultural norms have changed, but protecting the sanctity of white womanhood continues to be used as an excuse to demonize and oppress black men. And not just black men, of course, but we are focusing on them for this video. Let's dig into the psychology of some of this. I have been sexually harassed or assaulted in public by teenagers, by adult men of a variety of races on a number of occasions. This is obviously horrible, and it's especially horrible when it's a teenage boy, because it's very sad when any child seems to have been convinced that this is like a fulfilling way to express his masculinity. It's very depressing. It dehumanizes both of us. Now, most women are navigating these kinds of experiences, and something I think we need to be mindful of is that we don't take the position that because we're being dehumanized in this particular way, boys and men then have to earn our humanization through their behavior and not just through the fact that they are human. Because that is a classic example of just becoming the thing we fear, and it is this exact attitude combined with white supremacy that leads to the adultification of black boys. It leads to harsher punishments at school, higher rates of expulsion, longer prison sentences, etc. While there are lots of ways that feminism has been and can be beneficial to men, it is white Western men who have had the easiest access to those benefits. And that's another thing that I think white women in feminism are often very blind to. When we're not weaponizing the word oppressor, we're gaslighting black men about the impact that feminism has had on their lives. Feminism at its core is supposed to be about restoring humanity. And in order to do that, we need to be invested in the experiences of everybody. And that's what intersectional theory gives us, tools with which we can truly and empathetically understand any person's lived experiences with systems of oppression. Feminist practice has to get better at grappling with men's realities, but sometimes when I say that, I get a certain kind of response. Men shouldn't need feminism to be about them in order to want to participate. Listen, I get this line of thinking. It's the kind of thing that I would have said in my early 20s. But what's really ironic about this idea of, oh, they're only interested in feminism as long as it really clearly and explicitly benefits them, that actually really accurately describes a great deal of white women's participation in feminism. And when feminism fails to be invested in men's realities, the movement reveals itself to be fundamentally dishonest. It is not living up to its own philosophy. It is promising societal transformation whilst actively throwing spanners into the works. And the more layers of oppression that a man trying to interact with feminism is experiencing, relating to race, class, disability, etc., the more obvious and egregious that dishonesty becomes. If a truly feminist vision is ever going to be achieved, black men, along with everyone else, are going to be integral to that transformation. And right now, the mainstream feminist movement tends to treat black men with either overt hostility or condescension. I was like, oh, this is gonna make feminism look bad. Welcome to the Bell Hooks Book Club! Just as it was misguided for reformist feminist thinkers to see freedom as simply women having the right to be like powerful patriarchal men, so it was simplistic to imagine that the liberated man would simply become a woman in drag. Yet this was the model of freedom offered men by mainstream feminist thought. Men were expected to hold on to the ideas about strength and providing for others that were a part of patriarchal thought, while dropping their investment in domination and adding an investment in emotional growth. This vision of feminist masculinity was so fraught with contradictions, it was impossible to realise. No wonder then that men who cared, who were open to change, often just gave up, falling back on the patriarchal masculinity they found so problematic. The individual men who did take on the mantle of a feminist notion of male liberation did so only to find that few women respected this shift. Once the new man, that is the man changed by feminism, was represented as a wimp, as overcooked broccoli dominated by powerful females who were secretly longing for his macho counterpart, masses of men lost interest. So I'm very aware that I live in a bit of a bubble with this stuff. The people who I grew up with and the people who I now like to spend time with as an adult are all pretty committed to anti-patriarchal values and principles, like properly. Like most of my female friends genuinely don't want a protector or a provider. They don't want any of the patriarchal stuff. They're not doing this halfway house thing. But like I say, I know that that's a bubble. And I know that if I just look a centimetre past the bubble, I can quite clearly see that there are a lot of women in the world who really uphold this standard of patriarchal masculinity in overt ways and in covert ways. And a lot of these women have kind of melded this with the idea of feminism in a way that I find really annoying. Like a few years ago, I came across this idea for the first time that actually it's feminist to expect the man to pay on a date because men on average earn more than women on average, and women on average spend more on makeup and their looks and stuff, and that's why it's actually good to expect men to pay on a date. And I was really disappointed by that. I really was. I was like, oh, this is going to make feminism look bad. And it just felt so, like, unradical, you know? Like, I to be clear, I'm not a rad femme, I'm not a radical feminist, but I do think all feminism should be radical and should be pushing against the tired gender norms of the 1950s. And these ideas that I find very problematic have been really amplified by social media, and they have become very much associated with feminism, despite the fact that many of us find it quite repugnant. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of people who follow feminist values and feminist principles are actually struggling with the label of feminist. It's something I'm definitely grappling with, and I've seen that some people who I'm connected with on social media have posted videos about it, you know, basically saying like it's too hard. It's hard saying I'm a feminist and then having to go, oh, but I'm not a rad femme, and I'm not a TERF, and oh no, I'm not one of those ones that secretly actually upholds patriarchy in XYZ way. It's really difficult. There are some circles in which I would feel really confident saying I'm a feminist because I know what that word means to the people in that circle. But there are so many other circles where I know if I say I'm a feminist, it could mean 20 different things in that circle, and they're not necessarily wrong for thinking that because they're going on the internet and seeing people making these videos and getting hundreds of thousands of likes, you know? And I do think that if we're looking at like the whole of the UK, for example, that yeah, the majority of women do still cling on to patriarchal standards of masculinity. They do want this kind of half and half, you know, a modern man who's emotionally evolved, but also, you know, still having that protector and provider thing. I remember seeing a video a while ago of someone who was upset basically that every man she ever dated kind of laughed at her when she would try and invite them into softness with her. And she was kind of saying, why can't the men in my life embrace softness? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then she said, you know, why can't he be my protector, but also be soft with me? And I really felt for her because
Exactly.
for me, from my perspective,
Okay. To cultivating bold spaces. The unforgivable sin of white women concerning black men is not simply aligning yourself with white men. That's understandable. That's to be expected. It's not even feminism. Okay, white women wanted more power in the home, wanted some level of self-governance. So they helped to cultivate this movement. Okay, the unforgivable sin of white women was weaponizing black women against black men. The unforgivable sin of white folks was putting the thumb on the scale for black women concerning the conversation between black men and black women. It was corrupting the internal politics of the black community, particularly in America. That is the unforgivable sin. I heard you speak a lot about how white women have essentially harmed black men with feminism. We know about carceral feminism. You mentioned Caroline Bryant, right? Which is this proxy power that white women get to wield on men of color, but specifically black men. And how white women don't want to give up whiteness. They'll walk right up to the line of autonomy until you tell them, oh, for that autonomy, you got to sacrifice security. And they'll stop right there. Understandable. But the unforgivable sin from white people in general, white women specifically, white liberal women, white quote unquote progressive women, was weaponizing black women against black men. Huh? You know, The right is really looking, in America, the right is really looking like hypocrites more and more every day. Z, where the hell did you just go with this? Follow. We're starting to have conversations about postmodernism concerning the political right in America. When Mr. Z says let them talk, what eventually will be seen, what people will be able to glean, is others' hypocrisy. When you let someone run the clock out, when you let them get to the logical conclusion, when you let them play out whatever they advocate for, eventually you're going to get to the part where it's F your facts. F your facts is not just a black woman thing. It's not just a woman thing. It's a human thing. You just need to know what someone cares about enough to say, yeah, I heard you, but I don't care. Ooh. For those of us that remember, and I keep on bringing this up, Ben Shapiro was supposed to be the whiz kid, right? Debating genius, quick, right? Harvard grad and all. And what happened? He did the interview with Andrew Neil, slow and deliberate speaker, on BBC, right? Pause. And what happened? Ben Shapiro boxed himself out in the conversation. He didn't even appreciate that Andrew Neil and him occupy, for the most part, but the political side, the same political side. But Ben Shapiro, so eager for a debate, he misread Andrew Neil. And what happened when he realized that he boxed himself out? I'm more popular than you. Who knows who you are? Wait a minute, not Mr. Facts don't care about your feelings. So the debating whiz kid, when back put to the wall, debating whiz kid, when his back is put to the wall, he resigns himself to middle school and elementary school female insults. I'm more popular than you. Why did Mr. Z go there with this? When women backs are put to the wall with this talk of autonomy, freedom, liberation, self-governance, what you find out quickly is they don't actually want to pay the cost of that, Miss Cultivating Bold Spaces. What you find out is that women, heterosexual women at least, still want to be in relationship, romantic, sexual relationship, with men who are better than them. Not their equals, but men who are better than them. It's never good enough. And we're reaching the market cap of female empowerment. And it's showing that women are hypocrites. It's showing that women are in a constant competition with each other. Shout out to Content Machine.
Here's your slice of cake.
Oh, babe, that's so amazing.
Anything for you.
Oh.
Here are your 2 slices of cake.
Wow, guess it's what real love looks like.
Babe!
Oh my gosh, thank you!
Damn you! And your long, beautiful, caveman-like hair!
Here's your full cake.
Wow, I guess that's what real love looks like! Oh! Tyler, you're the best boyfriend ever!
Really? Are you serious with the whole cake, dude?
Ah!
What's wrong?
What's wrong is that I'm seeing what real love looks like, and you'll never be able to give that to me.
So you see, women are literally incapable of being happy. That's because they're constantly comparing themselves to other women. They only care about what they're getting relative to the women around them, trying to make women happy. Not even once.
It's funny because it's true. Oh boy. It's funny, and by the way, the content machine dudes gotta be some of the most red pill people making funny little shorts. Huh? It's funny because it's true. Cultivating bold spaces, what you're witnessing with women, particularly at the end of the last clip I played, the one I play all the time, where she's wearing that lavender shirt. What you have to appreciate is, yes, the woman that you said you read her comments. Yes, she wants a man that will engage in softness with her and that still provides and protects. You damn right. Yeah, it sounds absolutely asinine and insane. Who told you women were trying to make sense? Yes, they want both. Yes, they want both at the same time. What's this both you're speaking about, Z? Women want to be special and equal simultaneously. Say your phrase, Z. Women want patriarchy by feminist specifications. Feminism was supposed to get the men that they want for cheap, for nothing. They're attempting to use feminism to beat elite men over the head. We're not even speaking about the men that women don't find attractive. Those men are invisible. Women use feminism to mold the institutions to benefit them. It was supposed to allow for them to elevate into the spaces where the elite, mainly white, rich men are, and then get those men for nothing. What's this nothing you're speaking about, Z? Get these men in romantic relationship, possibly marriage, regardless of how this individual woman, how heavy she is, her weight, how she looks, how educated or not educated she is, her station and status in life. Feminism was supposed to break the men to the women's will. That is why you're reading that comment or watching that video where the woman is saying, I want him to engage in softness with me and provide and protect. Yes, Mr. Z calls that patriarchy by feminist specifications. Why can't he be, pause, soft and hard at the same time? I use the Ben Shapiro and Andrew Neil example to say that is the women right now. That's them right now. Huh? Or you could take it when Tucker Carlson debated the Norwegian dude. What's his name? Oh my God, it's right there. I forgot his face is right there. And you can hear Tucker Carlson cursing him out on the phone. Huh? Somebody gonna say dude name. He's the one that went to, did he go to the World Economic Forum or G20 or something like that years and years ago? And he told them, raise the taxes. That's the issue. Y'all talking about everything else but raising the taxes. I forgot this dude's name. I want to say he's Norwegian, but he could be Danish. I can't remember. Huh? What I am saying is that the women are Tucker Carlson in this instant. As we're reaching the market cap, we've already reached it, of female autonomy and empowerment. And women are forced to see what that costs them. This is when you're seeing that they never meant any of that equal at the same time. Well, they do mean the equal at the same time as being special, but they never meant the equal part. Women want their autonomy. They just want it subsidized and backstop. They do want their autonomy. They just want it subsidized. They want it backstopped. In other words, they want their autonomy with guardrails. Now, cultivating bold spaces, how is that supposed to work? My background says you will never be Miss Cartwright. This is the goal for all women of color. Yes, showing a black woman, for all women of color and working class white women. This is the goal, to be elite white women. Huh? Black women's autonomy cost them security. In America, single childless black women have the least amount of wealth in America. So black women can speak about America's anti-blackness. Mr. Z don't know how much he would disagree with that. And because of America's anti-blackness and black women's short-sightedness, they signed up for second wave, third wave, fourth wave feminism. They were the mascot for it. And what it cost them as well, security. Any sense of stability. Cultivating both spaces, I don't know how it happened in the UK, but in America, white women still turned around and married white men. Oops. White feminists still turned around and married white men. Had children with white men while waving the banner of feminism. Female empowerment. And contrary to popular belief, white women weren't only marrying the most progressive of white men. Uh-oh. And so black women liberated themselves into madness. Shout out to Black Uru. Their autonomy cost them security. Bell Hooks herself had a conversation with Gloria Steinem. It's still on the internet. They're on stage. Gloria Steinem says the greatest love of her life was some poor, I don't know, artist or something, musician. He wasn't a musician, some poor artist. Bell Hooks herself said, yeah, you could keep him over there. In other words, yeah, I can't do it. What are you talking about, Z? Bell Hooks was like, I can't do no poor men. Ooh. Not female empowerment, Bell Hooks. Not feminist patron saint, Bell Hooks. Oh no. Cultivating bold spaces. Women mean that until you present them with the men that earn similar or less than them. And they might be okay with it if he's like 6'7" with 8-pack abs and can lift a goddamn Hummer H2 with a 15-inch male member. Maybe then she'll be okay, at least for a short while, without earning her male counterpart. What you are witnessing, cultivating bold spaces, is the market cap for everyone and the particular ideology they spew. Huh? In America, there was a deletion of a male nurse, Alex Preddy, right? Hopefully I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And what a lot of folks are surprised by, but not black people, because we saw this happen with the Black Panthers in Sacramento with Ronald Reagan as governor. Oops. is that a whole lot of people that speak about gun rights don't mean it when it's the wrong type of people. Uh-oh. When you don't align with them politically. Huh? What you're finding is when you let people talk long enough, or when the right event comes along, you'll see whether a person meant what they were talking about, whether people mean what they're talking about. Do they really mean it when it doesn't benefit them? When it's the other side of the ideological spectrum, do they really mean it? Huh? Do people really mean free speech when it's something that hurt their feelings? Do people really mean what they're saying about gun rights when it's the different side of the political spectrum? Huh? Do people really mean facts don't care about your feelings when they get their feelings hurt, or when it's something that is important to them? Do people really mean it? Huh? Do women really mean it when you show them what their autonomy really look like? That their autonomy also means that men also have autonomy. That women don't owe men a particular type of gender performance, a patriarchal gender performance. Women don't owe men that. But do women appreciate that men also don't owe them a particular gender performance? If we dismantle patriarchy, if we take away, you don't have to act that way, you don't have to behave that way, you don't have to perform that way just because you are XX chromosome, do we appreciate that we're also saying to the men, you don't have to act that way, you don't have to conduct yourself that way, you don't have to behave that way, you don't have to perform that way just because you are XY chromosome? And are women truly prepared? See, you said some. Oh, no, you said a lot. It wasn't some. You said a lot. Cultivating both spaces. No, most. The vast majority of women, they're not going. They're not going to do it. Feminism was supposed to break the men for the women. It wasn't supposed to liberate the men from a particular gender performance. It was supposed to liberate the women. It wasn't supposed to liberate both the men and the women. It wasn't supposed to liberate the men. It was only supposed to liberate the women, while feigning like this was supposed to be about no one having to play a particular role and the freedom and liberation for everyone. That sounds good. That was what was advertised on the box. But then when you open the box, all you saw in there was freedom for women. Huh? Cultivating bold spaces. I played the clip from Content Machine to emphasize much of this has nothing to do with men's behavior, how men treat women. This is about women and how they view themselves and what it means to be a woman, what it means to be feminine. It's a gender performance. It's a class performance. It's, I can't be her because you're not him. And I'll let Foreign Man explain that. Continuing. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat.
I think it's a regressive conversation. And I think it also speaks, I think, more so like there's like a subcontext where black women are venting a frustration with black men for not going to college. I think that that's like the end of the sentence, the part of the sentence that has been cut off. It's just like not only black men are not going to college, but I am frustrated with the fact, especially like I've seen like a lot of black women like chiefing the conversation. I am frustrated with the fact that black men are not going to college. And I think that speaks to a couple of different reasons, because you then begin to get into the conversation of the ability to provide some levels of patriarchal provide and protect, which is an age-old conversation. It's also a very misguided one, because I mean, even if you go back to an understanding of like African societies and like how black men and black women cohabitated at that point, it was never that. The idea of provide and protect never looked that way for
it was never
us.
that top-down kind of
it wasn't
story that we get.
It wasn't, and even from the transatlantic slave trade, like we understood that. But still, the mythos is carried on, especially like when you deal with the fact that, and a lot of people don't like to hear this, but like the black woman, just like how the black man wants to be white, shouts to Fanon, the black woman not only wants to be white, but more importantly wants to be woman. Like you have to understand, like a lot of the time, like the black woman is denied femininity. Like they are denied humanhood, but more importantly, denied femininity. They're always characterized as
I've kind of
masculine.
hinted at a couple of times before that I think happens with a lot of these culture war combos.
Precisely. And like the reason why, like, I mean, like to externalize it and also understanding that white supremacy is just such a very difficult institution to tackle. The black woman is put in a situation where she can only vent her frustration potentially to the black man. The black woman can't necessarily attack the white supremacist institution. So like the immediate person to fight is horizontal. It's not vertical. Like the fight isn't vertical because that's too hard. Like it's horizontal. And who's next to you? The black man. You then frustrate, or you vent your frustrations onto the black man with, I would be woman if you would take me out of these, if you were a man. That's a beautiful way to put it. I would be woman if you were a man. Because then if you were a man, you would take me out of me working this, groveling job. You would put me in furs. You would put me in a position of femininity. Like you would make me the way that the white woman is. You would make me honorary. You would make me dainty. You would make me soft. But I can't be, because I have to be in these proximities to danger. And I'm tired of it. That's what I think like a subtext of this is.
I heard that in real life before, actually.
Damn.
Like in so many words, like a woman I was dating, she told me something very much so like in that vein, like she didn't feel feminine in a sense. I'm like, what do you mean? Like you are a woman, like you are a beautiful black woman. Like I see femininity all in and throughout you. But well, I guess like what she means is like you were saying, like if you were a man, you would make me a woman, so I could just really be in my feminine bag and not have to work and worry about so many things that I'm being tasked with taking care of. Like so.
And I think it's
So to cultivating bold spaces, this is the conversation, particularly amongst black men, black women. This what feminism was supposed to be for the masses. I'm not speaking about the women like you, of varying different backgrounds, who might actually mean it. As you said, you're not in this halfway house. You and your female friends are not doing the halfway house thing. I would submit to you that fully 90, 95, 99% of women are doing the halfway house thing to varying degrees. Where foreign, I think, misses the mark is he think women care about anything he talking about. He think if he present to women, look, we used to practice like this back in ancient Africa, and you don't have, look, it doesn't have to be top down, and the men and the women not going. This is even if we granted foreign that the entire continent of Africa, pre-European colonization, operated in a way where it wasn't a hierarchy and it wasn't I am man, hear me roar, and it wasn't patriarchal. Even if we granted him that, it ain't going back. The genie is not going back in the bottle. Women see other women with nice things. They want nice things. They see other women with lifestyle and experiences, and they want it. And to hell with you telling them, not that they can't have it, but what it takes. Women will sacrifice their autonomy for security if it's enough. For black women, that's debatable. If it's enough. More than enough. Foreign really think that if you present to black women in particular, that it doesn't have to be this hierarchical top-down approach, that they'll go, yeah, if you could break the men for them, if you could provide black women, and quite frankly, all women, with what Munchkin is talking about. As a matter of fact, let me play this because this is the goal here, I would argue, for most women.
What if black women were supposed to be the leaders and black men are just supposed to protect with their muscles and use their listening ears and carry out instructions?
Foreign, see, that is what black women signed up for feminism for. That is what they thought they were getting. That young lady just said the quiet part out loud. That's all. Play it again, Z, for the people who never seen it before. Everybody's seen it before.
What if black women were supposed to be the leaders and black men are just supposed to protect with their muscles and use their listening ears and carry out instructions?
The thing is, now we're in what, fourth, fifth wave feminism or some odd? And so you're finding more and more women, black women, white women, just out and out say, you know what, bring on the matriarchy. Why don't y'all just provide, protect, and shut up? What about if women are supposed to lead and men are just supposed to be the big dumb jocks and use their muscles and protect and provide? Go out there, go work yourself to the bone and bring the resources back, but I'm gonna still run the house and the outside. And I still want opportunities if I do decide to work. In other words, the women are saying, okay, we're tired of pretending like that's not what we were talking about. Look, what we were really trying to say is, can you elite men and women just break the everyday man for us? If we're not going to end up with the elite rich white man, could you just break the regular man for us so he could get on our program regardless of what we earn, what he earned? I don't care he earns 56% more than me. Isn't that what the lady said? They look at, what was it, 42%? I can't recall. Economically unattractive men are leading to a downturn in marriage. That don't sound like equality to me. Don't sound like feminism to me. It's not just late stage capitalism. It's late stage feminism. I think someone said that in the comments a couple days ago, and they were right. What you're dealing with, cultivating bold spaces, is late stage feminism, late stage female empowerment. We're getting to the place with what did the women actually mean, and I am showing you what the women actually meant.
I miss when men used to protect, provide, and shut up.
I miss when men used to protect, provide, and shut up. Huh? What do the women really mean? Obviously, as a black man, I'm primarily speaking about black women, but all women. When they signed up to the Faustian bargain of air quotes female empowerment, what did they actually expect to get out of that? Well, brace yourselves, everyone.
As a man, if you don't have house core job, don't look for a woman with house core job. And for the men that complain about women that do that, look for a man that has all three and they don't have all three. We can do that. We are women. You want us. You need us. Y'all want one thing from us. And mad because we boss y'all around because you're a fucking servant. You're a provider, right? You're a protector, right? You're a security guard and you're a goddamn assistant. Know your place. Stop being contradicting and bow down. Because I'm sick of it.
Cultivating bold spaces. That is what the women signed up for. They were quiet. They spoke about equality and fairness in the workplace and emotional labor and domestic labor and how they're not being paid for domestic labor and huh? How much they invest in the children and the cost, the mental, emotional, the psychological cost of being a mother. They spoke about men's weaponized incompetence. And the women just got tired of pretending. And now they sound like, well, the clip I just played. Look, okay, look. Shut up. Go, provide, protect, bring your paycheck back here. Don't ask me why I do what I do. I do what I do because I'm a woman. Just shut up, provide, and protect. And bow down. Huh? And Dominique says, only the most ridiculous women online are saying that stuff. Dominique, question for you. I agree with you, by the way. I don't think most women are saying this. I think most women want this, though. Ooh. And when I say most, I don't mean 51% most. I mean like 85, 90, 95% most. I agree with you. I don't think most women would say this. I don't even think most black women would say this. Pay attention to the actions, though. Ooh. Huh? When Mr. Z says patriarchy by feminist specifications, this is what I'm saying. I agree with you. Most women, even black women, would never say what Munchkin said. Not in polite company, not around men at least. What do their actions say, though? You know what? What do their words say short of this? Huh? Dominique, I disagree. Dominique says, disagree. Most want actual equality. Women don't want actual equality. Actual equality mean that if you put a finger on me, I get to lay you out. Bow! Women don't want that. Huh? Women don't want how we treat men. Where if you're on the side of the road with car trouble as a man, it's up to me whether I stop or not. I don't feel any sense of obligation. There's no gentlemanly code that says, oh, look at that woman over there and she's with her daughter. You know what? I'm going to pull over. We don't have that for men. Huh? We don't have for men, hey, the boat is sinking. Women and children first. Women and children first on the rafts, on anything that could float. Women and children first. Huh? And Keep It 100 says 50-50 is for partners, y'all spaces. And when women are presented with 50-50, particularly women who plan to be mothers one day, they then do what? They fall back on, actually, because I'm the one who bear the children, it's not actually 50-50. I'm going to need you to come with that check. Ooh. The same feminist women that don't want to be boiled down to a womb then turn around and point to their womb. Ooh, goddamn. The same women start acting like what we asked her to do was break rocks and boulders and move boulders 9 months pregnant. Huh? Yeah. Okay, so he said, not spaces, slaves, typo. Okay. So let's read that again. And he says 50-50 is for partners. Y'all slaves. Yeah. Right. And Dominique says, is that a fair comparison? A regular woman isn't winning that fight. You're right, Dominique. You're right. But if I know that, you know that. What I'm saying is women don't actually want equality. What they want is for men to operate in a society with men's hands behind their back. Women actually want, at least from observation, some form of benevolent patriarchy, some form of borderline carceral feminism, some form of elite men checking everyday men for everyday women. Huh? What women want is a society that kind of bends to them in their will. A society that allows for women to practice their mating strategy, to put the thumb on the scale for women's mating strategy. Huh? What women want is a world that doesn't shame them for their misbehavior or for their antisocial behavior and ideas. Women don't actually want equal, they want equal and special at the same time. I'll agree with you, the average man can physically dominate the average woman. You're right about that. Yeah, we know there are exceptions. I actually watched a clip the other day. It was this petite black woman on the sidewalk, the kind of big dude following her, not following her like stalking her, but kind of, at least what it looked like, a bit harassing her. And she laid him out one punch. One hit quick. She didn't lay him out. I'm doing too much. She dazed him. He fell. One punch. Bow. So it happens. It happens. But on average, that's not happening. Huh? You want to know what feminism has resulted to? Well,
how old are you?
I'm 29.
Are you single?
Yes.
Why are you single right now?
Because the men are not enough rich to take care of me.
So you're looking for a rich man?
Yes. Yes, I want to be spoiled.
Why does he have to be rich?
Because I want to be spoiled. Because I make my own money and I need to be dominated.
There you go, Dominique. For all of you that said this is going to be Mr. Z's new video for a little while, you're right. You let women talk long enough, they're going to tell you what it is. Cultivating both spaces, there you go. Foreign man in a foreign land, there you go. As women entered the workforce, black women were already in the workforce, I understand. As women entered the workforce, as they were allowed to climb the corporate ladder, get promotions, become valedictorians in school, right? Get college degrees, advanced degrees, terminal degrees, whole bunch of certificates, travel the world. As women got to engage in that decenter men talk, right? I am more than just his wife talk. I'm a woman regardless if I'm with a man or not, whether I'm in a romantic relationship with a man or not, I am still a woman. As women got to engage in all of that talk, we're talking about heterosexual women here. When their back is to the wall, they're speaking like this. Now, most women won't word it like this. Now, I will say that. Most women won't actually use these exact words. But you let them talk long enough, and essentially what they're saying is some derivative of this. Play it again, Z.
How old are you?
I'm 29.
Are you single?
Yes.
Why are you single right now?
Because the men are not enough rich to take care of me.
So you're looking for a rich man?
Yes. Yes, I want to be spoiled.
Why does he have to be rich?
Because I want to be spoiled. Because I make my own money and I need to be dominated.
Dear Cultivating Bold Spaces, there you go. I made sure to capture this because she said it. She left no room for interpretation. The reason why you save videos like that, the reason why you download videos like that, send them to Z. Email's always in the description box. Talk about that. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Oh, shout out to the replay gang. Thank you, Bun and Hype Bun. The reason why you save videos like that is to emphasize that men aren't making it up. Women are human beings. Women have self-interest. Women are hypocrites. The young lady told you, I earn my own money. I need to be dominated. Huh? I need to be dominated. The men are not rich enough. Ooh. And I need to go find that clip. I can only find it on Medium Man's channel, where the young lady, black young lady, speaking to her husband, and she straight up said, black men don't earn enough more than black men. Huh? Not that black men don't earn more than black women. No, black men don't earn enough more. Ooh. What is that young lady saying? The same thing this young lady is saying. I need to be dominated financially. I need to be dominated physically. Women fought for the same environment that they're unattracted to. Well, you look at that. Well, when you look at that. Huh? And thank you, Tunnel Runner. And Tunnel Runner says, 102 watching, only 42 likes. Get the likes up. Like, share, subscribe, hit the super chat. Why y'all hate me so much? I'm only telling the truth. And I got the videos to back it up. Uh-oh. See, when Mr. Z used to just be freestyling years ago, shout out to my day ones, then y'all could be like, oh, I don't know about that, Z. No, Z, you doing too much. Now I got the women saying it in their own words. Now the quality of the videos may not be all that great all the time. 480 and 360. Huh? We don't got the 1080p videos. No, not yet. Too much space on my phone for that. It takes up too much space. 720p takes up too much space. But the 480s and 360, yeah, we got that. We have that. And you get to see the women in their own words. They're saying it. Cultivating bold spaces. The unforgivable sin of white women was weaponizing black women against black men. As white women turned around and still married white men. Some black women were convinced that y'all would sail out in the sunset and form y'all Combahee River collective of women, some co-munching coven of women. And in actuality, the majority of white women turned around and married white men and sailed out in the sunset. Huh. That was the unforgivable sin. And once again, thank you, Tunnel Runner. And let me read this from the Arena Revised. And the Arena Revised says, disagree, Z. I disagree with Z and Dominique. Most sisters are saying it with the likes and in the comments. You know what? I didn't consider that. I do think liking a video does give at least some tacit endorsement of what is said in the video. Obviously, you actually like the video, right? So I didn't actually consider that. And obviously, I mean, if you're commenting and it's a comment praising the video, then duh, that's self-evident, right? That says everything it needs to say. So yeah, I didn't consider that. And we saw that with what's the young lady's name? Oh man, her face is right there. Her face is right there. She was one of the sisters that might have been deleted by the white man. That was the one that the police told her brother or her family he's a very fine young man or something like that. It was a black woman that possibly was deleted by a white man. At least she was found unalive in his presence. Lauren Smithfields? Lauren, yeah, I want to say that might be her name. And yeah, if y'all remember, when people went over her Twitter, she had reposted or at least shared one of those comments of "I tried with you black men, now I'm on to white men" type memes or whatever. So you do have a point there, the Arena Revised. You do have a point. I can't disagree with the point. Cannot disagree with the point. Huh? So yeah. But I want to emphasize that too. Cultivating bold spaces, it's not simply that white women weaponize their femininity against black men. It's that white women weaponize everything against black men, including black women. White people interfere with the internal politics and goings on of different groups and demographics across the planet. That includes Black America. Whatever dynamic black men and black women would have came to naturally got interrupted, and tampered with by white men and by white women. So the unforgivable sin of white women, white feminists, is weaponizing black women against black men, which then hurt black women and black men. Huh? So we're gonna play her one more again, and it's because I have way more people in now, and we're gonna play the clips that Mr. Z is referring to, making reference to, and we'll get underway. And thank you for the super chat, Arena Revised. Thank you for the super chat.
White women often express frustration when black men don't see the potential of feminism, but I think what a lot of us need to take into account is we belong to a class of people who have continuously distorted the feminist movement and made it a very hostile place for black men, and a lot of other men, to be. The way that Bell Hooks writes about feminism, it's not just about women's rights, it's about dismantling domination altogether. But the mainstream feminist movement, driven by white women, has been much more invested in, first and foremost, giving white women the same kind of power and privileges that white men have, and creating spaces in which women can vent their rage about men. And this is very disappointing. While I consider myself a practitioner of feminist philosophy, I often find myself alienated by certain pockets of the movement. And if I'm feeling alienated, a lot of other people are going to be feeling alienated too. Black men are constantly hearing white women describe them as their oppressors, which is honestly wild considering the role that white women have played in the oppression of black men. And when we're not weaponizing the word oppressor, another problem of ours is being condescending about what feminism does for black men, because really it's been white Western men who've had the easiest access to the benefits of feminism. The concept of white womanhood is, I think, one of the most oppressive tools in the world, and white women and feminism are often totally blind to the way that we weaponize this ourselves. When men are treated as disposable, suspect, or undeserving of empathy, that does not dismantle patriarchy, it just reproduces it. Feminism is supposed to be about restoring humanity, and that will only work if it invests in and includes includes everyone. If the feminist movement cannot honestly grapple with the lived experiences of black men and men in general and the role that women play in their subjugation, then it will utterly fail in its own promise of social transformation. If you want a more detailed look at this topic, I have made a longer video on this, so go check out the last video in this series.
For all intents and purposes, let's say we believe cultivating bold spaces. Here's the problem. The women didn't sign up for men to be liberated with feminism. Ooh, goddamn. Men were still supposed to play their role in society, play their role in the home. What feminism was supposed to do was liberate women. And when you let enough women speak, they may not say it in those exact words, but they're going to allude, suggest, and infer it. They're going to allude to it. They're going to suggest it. And you'll be able to glean, oh, that's what, oh, okay, I get it now. That's what you meant. Huh? Continuing.
I am of the view that white womanhood as a construct is one of the most oppressive tools on this planet. Welcome to the Bell Hooks Book Club. So I know this book is about black women and feminism, but I do think it would be a shame to spend all this time talking about white women's behaviour in feminism and not talk about the impact on black men. Bell Hooks' key dilemma in this book is that she's completely on board with the philosophy of feminism, but she's disappointed by how in practice the movement is distorted by white supremacist, classist, capitalist thinking. To me, feminism is not simply a struggle to end male chauvinism or a movement to ensure that women will have equal rights with men. It is a commitment to eradicating the ideology of domination that permeates Western culture on various levels, sex, race, and class to name a few, and a commitment to reorganising US society so that the self-development of people can take precedence over imperialism, economic expansion, and material desires. This focus on self-development is a big theme in another way.
People don't care about your self-development if they can't benefit from it. Huh? You know it's bad when even foreign man in a foreign land and FD signifier both pretty much said, yeah, women don't care nothing about, and Professor Odie. All three of them have either said or alluded to, yeah, the women don't care about none of that self-development of men if the women not benefiting. Now, Professor Odie framed it in a question, but the men know, yeah, the women don't care nothing about that. Not if they're not benefiting. Self-development. Okay, cool. Yeah, I want black men to be healthy. Wait, a healthy him means I can't be toxic? Yeah, I don't mean it then. Oops. Continuing.
I am of the view that white womanhood as a construct is one of the most oppressive tools on this planet. Welcome to the Bell Hooks Book Club. So I know this book is about black women and feminism, but I do think it would be a shame to spend all this time talking about white women's behaviour in feminism and not talk about the impact on black men. Bell Hooks' key dilemma in this book is that she's completely on board with the philosophy of feminism, but she's disappointed by how in practice the movement is distorted by white supremacist, classist, capitalist thinking. To me, feminism is not simply a struggle to end male chauvinism or a movement to ensure that women...
Sorry, I gotta address this now. And Hero says, fast talking PhD women bring ED. I'm the one who sped that up. I sped it up 1.35 speed, so she doesn't actually speak that fast. As a matter of fact, the last video I'm gonna play from her, the one after this one, that's gonna be her normal speed. And I'm actually gonna take that off because I'm gonna speed that one up and put it back. So there's a, you know, I tend to speed up the videos to 1.35 speed. 1.25 is a little slow. It's a little too slow. So I usually do 1.35 speed. I don't do 1.5 speed. That might be a little too fast for some folks. Obviously, I don't do 2 times speed. So 1.35 speed, I find to be the sweet spot for the videos. It's not too fast, right? It's not normal speed. It actually allows for me to save space in my phone when I'm saving these videos. So 1.35 speed is pretty much the speed I go at. So Hero, give her a bit of just a smidge of grace because it's me that sped up the video. That's not her actual speed. So continuing.
I am of the view that white womanhood as a construct is one of the most oppressive tools on this planet. Welcome to the Bell Hooks Book Club. So I know this book is about black women and feminism, but I do think it would be a shame to spend all this time talking about white women's behaviour in feminism and not talk about the impact on black men. Bell Hooks' key dilemma in this book is that she's completely on board with the philosophy of feminism, but she's disappointed by how in practice the movement is distorted by white supremacist, classist, capitalist thinking. To me, feminism is not simply a struggle to end male chauvinism or a movement to ensure that women will have equal rights with men. It is a commitment to eradicating the ideology of domination that permeates Western culture on various levels, sex, race, and class to name a few, and a commitment to reorganizing US society so that the self-development of people can take precedence over imperialism, economic expansion, and material desires. This focus on self-development is a big theme in another one of Huxley's books, The Will to Change, which we've covered before in this series. With traditional gender dynamics being a power struggle and the mainstream feminist movement being a power struggle, the self-development of boys and men is not prioritized anywhere. The Will to Change really brings to light the ways in which women are complicit in the subjugation of men. Subjugation meaning the action of bringing someone under domination or control. And again, in this book, she expresses disappointment with how feminist practice is not living up to feminist philosophy. Feminist philosophy offers a path away from the horrors of male socialization, but too many feminists in practice have distorted feminism with an anti-male sentiment, which means we never actually get on with that work. Coming back to this book, which was actually written before The Will to Change, the women's movement has become a kind of ghetto or concentration camp for women who are seeking to attain the kind of power they feel men have. It provides a forum.
Anti-male sentiment. I get what you're saying, and I'm not saying that these women don't have their issues with elite men, particularly elite rich white men. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is based off of the marriage statistics, at least in America, I don't know what's happening in the UK, the men that are more likely to be married and stay married are the elites. Mainly the top 20, maybe 25% of men, mainly white and East Asian or South Asian. When you start getting to Latinos and Black folks, who are mainly the folks that are lower middle class if you're lucky, but definitely working class, working poor, and just outright poor in America, they're the folks who are more likely to be single, more likely to be impoverished, less likely to be college educated. So do women really have an anti-man sentiment? Possibly, probably. But the people that are in the best position to insulate themselves from this sentiment are elite men, particularly elite white men. So as much as women say down with the patriarchy, right? Down with the patriarchy, as much as women speak about the sexism and misogyny in this society, in practice, I don't know how many women are turning down Henry Cavill. Ooh, goddamn, Z. Henry Cavill is currently dating a, what, 19, 20-year-old? Uh-oh. Huh? Henry Cavill's what, in his early 40s? Late 30s, early 40s? Yeah, about that. Are women truly anti-patriarchy? Or do women think there should only certain type of men should be able to practice patriarchy? And I wonder who those men are. Ooh. Z, we don't like these questions. I know. Start making certain people cringe when you start asking the real questions. Are women truly anti-patriarchy, or they think only certain men should be allowed to practice patriarchy? Uh-oh. You know, a certain race and gender should be allowed to practice patriarchy. All the rest of you will be the subjects, well, of the women. Protect, provide, and shut up comes in. Ooh. Continuing.
I am of the view that white womanhood as a construct is one of the most oppressive tools on this planet. Welcome to the Bell Hooks Book Club. So I know this book is about black women and feminism, but I do think it would be a shame to spend all this time talking about white women's behaviour in feminism and not talk about the impact on black men. Bell Hooks' key dilemma in this book is that she's completely on board with the philosophy of feminism, but she's disappointed by how in practice the movement is distorted by white supremacist, classist, capitalist thinking. To me, feminism is not simply a struggle to end male chauvinism or a movement to ensure that women will have equal rights with men. It is a commitment to eradicating the ideology of domination that permeates Western culture on various levels, sex, race, and class, to name a few, and a commitment to reorganizing US society so that the self-development of people can take precedence over imperialism, economic expansion, and material desires. This focus on self-development is a big theme in another one of Huxley's books, The Will to Change, which we've covered before in this series. With traditional gender dynamics being a power struggle and the mainstream feminist movement being a power struggle, the self-development of boys and men is not prioritized anywhere. The Will to Change really brings to light the ways in which women are complicit in the subjugation of men. Subjugation meaning the action of bringing someone under domination or control. And again, in this book, she expresses disappointment with how feminist practice is not living up to feminist philosophy. Feminist philosophy offers a path away from the horrors of male socialization, but too many feminists feminists in practice have distorted feminism with an anti-male sentiment, which means we never actually get on with that work. Coming back to this book, which was actually written before The World's Change, the women's movement has become a kind of ghetto or concentration camp for women who are seeking to attain the kind of power they feel men have. It provides a forum for the expression of their feelings of anger, jealousy, rage and disappointment with men. It provides an atmosphere where women who have little in common, who may resent or even feel indifferent to one another, can bond on the basis of shared negative feelings towards men. And so this brings us on to the tricky topic of feminism is just man-hating. A lot of men use that phrase to dismiss feminism entirely, even in the face of feminist analysis that's actually focusing on improving their lives. And when that happens, when they're just seeking to be dismissive and destructive, obviously I'm going to argue against that. However, when those who actually care about the potential of feminism point out the anti-male sentiment that is distorting the movement, I'm absolutely in agreement with that. If we're going to be constructive, we need to look at that because it is holding us back. Lots of feminists are completely blind to the ways in which women are complicit in the subjugation of men and are totally hostile to the idea of feminism liberating men. A common refrain on this front is, why are we the only group being asked to center our oppressors? And this brings me to black men specifically, because if black men are constantly hearing white women describe them as their oppressors, well, it's not exactly going to endear them towards feminism, is it? I'm of the view that white womanhood as a construct is one of the most oppressive tools on this planet. So much of Western society is shaped around putting the idea of white womanhood on a pedestal, and this then dictates how all men and all women are supposed to behave. White women have an extremely complicated relationship with this, right? Because the pedestal effect is not liberating, it's very dehumanizing, and we're pretty good at recognizing that and talking about that. However, it is undeniable that this pedestaling of white womanhood, while on one hand oppressive to white women, is also the means by which we are able to subjugate and oppress everyone else. It is vital that white women understand that the reason that black men have been mythologized as rapists is to protect an idea of white womanhood. It is to frame white women as pure and virtuous, and then give white men an excuse to enact their racist violence in the name of protecting women. The lynching of Emmett Till is probably the...
And to cultivating bold spaces, I ask, and this is a real question, do you think the majority of white women care? From the far right all the way to the most progressive of progressive, do you think you can shame them? Or do you think they love and they bathe, right? They gallivant, not gallivantsy, in the idea of proxy power. I don't have to get my hands dirty. I could sick men on other men. Talk about power. Talk about power. I can weaponize my tears against the vast majority of the planet and have white men rain down terror on anyone. I get what you're saying, cultivating bold spaces. I get it. But have you ever considered that the vast majority of white women love that they have this power? Now, will they admit that to the rest of the world? Probably not. Not for the majority, at least. But do they love that they have that power? Oh, you better believe it. The ability and the power to claim grape after enjoying some triple X fun with a black man. You get caught, or people start to suspect, so now you claim some type of assault. And that black man gets deleted. In modern times, rumor has it that you could be a whole female, white female police officer who's engaging in, oh, by the way, you're engaged, and you're also engaged to a white man as a white woman. Okay, fine. You're a police officer. Okay, fine. And rumor has it, allegedly, that you are engaging in some triple X fun with one of the black men that lives a floor above you. Is it above or was it beneath? Mr. Z don't remember. Either way, whatever happens, happens. It's not going the way you want, and you delete him. And then you use the excuse that you were tired from work and you hadn't slept in how many hours and you accidentally walked into the wrong apartment and he was sitting on the couch with his boxer shorts and eating ice cream and Rumor has it that somebody on his same floor said they overheard you knocking on the door saying, "Let me in." You don't say that when you haven't had enough sleep and you're on the wrong floor and you're walking into the wrong apartment. You don't say that when you think it's your apartment, madam. "Let me in"? Uh-oh. Huh? White women love the proxy power. Now, some of them might not want to admit that out loud. It's a little cringe. There's certain things you know about yourself. For some of y'all that are bigger than the average person, or y'all might know how to fight, right? That's not something you tell everyone. It's not something you brag about. You might even be in an argument with someone. You're not the one that throws out all the time, "Oh, well, I'll kick your ass." It's just not. It's just not polite. You're doing too much. So for your average white woman, she knows the power she has, the social power, the political power. She may not want to flex it all the time, right? She might feel like she's doing too much. But does she appreciate that she can weaponize her tears? Right? What did Amy Cooper do to the bird watcher? What did Amy Cooper do when the black man told her to put her dog on a leash? What did she do? Huh? Did she not call 911 and act as if he was harassing her? The black man was harassing her? Did she not damn near choke the hell out of her dog dialing that 911 number? White women love that power, particularly in America, and they're not giving that power up for black men's humanity or anyone's humanity for that matter. That particular power that we're describing right now is a very uniquely white woman power. Huh? The power we're speaking about, that weaponized tears, can other women engage with that a little bit here and there? Yes. Yes. But at scale, the type of power we're speaking about, oh, that is a very uniquely white Western woman power, particularly white American women in this case power. Big Mo, I know the name. I didn't say it on purpose. And by the way, autocorrect got you on the name. I know what you meant. Continuing.
I'm of the view that white womanhood as a construct is one of the most oppressive tools on this planet. Welcome to the Bell Hooks Book Club. So I know this book is about black women and feminism, but I do think it would be a shame to spend all this time talking about white women's behaviour in feminism and not talk about the impact on black men. Bell Hooks' key dilemma in this book is that she's completely on board with the philosophy of feminism, but she's disappointed by how in practice the movement is distorted by white supremacist, classist, capitalist thinking. To me, feminism is not simply a struggle to end male chauvinism or a movement to ensure that women will have equal rights with men. It is a commitment to eradicating the ideology of domination that permeates Western culture on various levels, sex, race, and class to name a few, and a commitment to reorganising US society so that the self-development of people can take precedence over imperialism, economic expansion, and material desires. This focus on self-development is a big theme in another one of Hooks' books, The Will to Change, which we've covered before in this series. With traditional gender dynamics being a power struggle and the mainstream feminist movement being a power struggle, the self-development of boys and men is not prioritised anywhere. The Will to Change really brings to light the ways in which women are complicit in the subjugation of men, subjugation meaning the action of bringing someone under domination or control. And again in this book she expresses disappointment with how feminist practice is not living up to feminist philosophy. Feminist philosophy offers a path away from the horrors of male socialisation, but too many feminists in practice have distorted feminism with an anti-male sentiment, which means we never actually get on with that work. Coming back to this book, which was actually written before The Will to Change, the women's movement has become a kind of ghetto or concentration camp for women who are seeking to attain the kind of power they feel men have. It provides a forum for the expression of their feelings of anger, jealousy, rage and disappointment with men. It provides an atmosphere where women who have little in common, who may resent or even feel indifferent to one another, can bond on the basis of shared negative feelings towards men. And so this brings us on to the tricky topic of feminism is just man-hating. A lot of men use that phrase to dismiss feminism entirely, even in the face of feminist analysis that's actually focusing on improving their lives. And when that happens, when they're just seeking to be dismissive and destructive, obviously I'm going to argue against that. However, when those who actually care about the potential of feminism point out the anti-male sentiment that is distorting the movement, I'm absolutely in agreement with that. If we're going to be constructive, we need to look at that because it is holding us back. Lots of feminists are completely blind to the ways in which women are complicit in the subjugation of men and are totally hostile to the idea of feminism liberating men. A common refrain on this front is, why are we the only group being asked to center our oppressors? And this brings me to black men specifically, because if black men are constantly hearing white women describe them as their oppressors, well, it's not exactly going to endear them towards feminism, is it? I am of the view that white womanhood as a construct is one of the most oppressive tools on this planet. So much of Western society is shaped around putting the idea of white womanhood on a pedestal, and this then dictates how all men and all women are supposed to behave. White women have an extremely complicated relationship with this, right? Because the pedestal effect is not liberating, it's very dehumanizing, and we're pretty good at recognizing that and talking about that. However, it is undeniable that this pedestaling of white womanhood, while on one hand oppressive to white women, is also the means by which we are able to subjugate and oppress everyone else. It is vital that white women understand that the reason that black men have been mythologized as rapists is to protect an idea of white womanhood. It is to frame white women as pure and virtuous, and then give white men an excuse to enact their racist violence in the name of protecting women. The lynching of Emmett Till is probably the most commonly cited example of this. This white woman, Carolyn Bryant, claimed that 14-year-old Emmett Till had sexually harassed her, and as an act of protection, her husband and her brother-in-law kidnapped and murdered Till. While we'll never know exactly what happened, she did confess in 2008 that she lied about what happened. Way too many white women now look at a story like that and go, I can't believe she did that, that could never be me. But there's an arrogance in just assuming that we are any less a product of our racist environment than Carolyn Bryant was of hers. Yes, times have changed, laws have changed, cultural norms have changed, but protecting the sanctity of white womanhood continues to be used as an excuse to demonize and oppress black men. And not just black men, of course, but we are focusing on them for this video. Let's dig into the psychology of some of this. I have been sexually harassed or assaulted in public by teenagers, by adult men of a variety of races on a number of occasions. This is obviously horrible, and it's especially horrible when it's a teenage boy, because it's very sad when any child seems to have been convinced that this is like a fulfilling way to express his masculinity. It's very depressing. It dehumanizes both of us. Now, most women are navigating these kinds of experiences, and something I think we need to be mindful of is that we don't take the position that because we're being dehumanized in this particular way, boys and men then have to earn our humanization through their behavior and not just through the fact that they are human. Because that is a classic example
morally superior talk.
And it is this exact attitude combined with white supremacy that leads to the adultification of black boys. It leads to harsher punishments at school, higher rates of expulsion, longer prison sentences, etc. While there are lots of ways that feminism has been and can be beneficial to men, it is white Western men who have had the easiest access to those benefits. And that's another thing that I think white women in feminism are often very blind to. When we're not weaponizing the word oppressor, we're gaslighting black men about the impact that feminism has had on their lives. Feminism at its core is supposed to be about restoring humanity. And in order to do that, we need to be invested in the experiences of everybody. And that's what intersectional theory gives us, tools with which we can truly and empathetically understand any person's lived experiences with systems of oppression. Feminist practice has to get better at grappling with men's realities, but sometimes when I say that, I get a certain kind of response. Men shouldn't need feminism to be about them in order to want to participate. Listen, I get this line of thinking. It's the kind of thing that I would have said in my early 20s. But what's really ironic about this idea of, oh, they're only interested in feminism as long as it really clearly and explicitly benefits them, that actually really accurately describes a great deal of white women's participation in feminism. And when feminism fails to be invested in men's realities, the movement reveals itself to be fundamentally dishonest. It is not living up to its own philosophy. It is promising societal transformation whilst actively throwing spanners into the works. And the more layers of oppression that a man trying to interact with feminism is experiencing, relating to race, class, disability, etc., the more obvious and egregious that dishonesty becomes. If a truly feminist vision is ever going to be achieved, black men, along with everyone else, are going to be integral to that transformation. And right now, the mainstream feminist movement tends to treat black men with either overt hostility or condescension.
When she was speaking about feminist ideology and how it's not standing up to essentially what they purport to believe, I would argue that's what happened as you reach some of your end goal in just about any ideology. As you win, as you got what you said you wanted, we get to see whether you meant it or not. That's when people start to deviate. That's when people start to say, well, no. I wanted this actually. Oh, wait. I actually want to kind of let me fix that a little bit. Let me tweak that a little bit. I don't want that exactly that way. Oh, wait, you know what? I didn't factor this in. Wait. I didn't want the side effects of that. Oh, no. And so what you're seeing, cultivating bold spaces, what you're seeing is the market cap, the logical conclusion of feminism, female empowerment, where women say, okay, you know what? I want both and. I want both and at the same time. Simultaneously, I want both and. I want feminism, but I want patriarchy. A la carte. I take a little bit of that from patriarchy. Ooh, and a little bit of this. Ooh, salad bar. Ooh, let me get a little bit of that, a sprinkle of this, a smattering of that. All of that. Ooh, but patriarchy. Ooh, I want this part of patriarchy and that part of patriarchy. Ooh, and a little bit of this part of patriarchy. Can I just mix all of this together? Fundamentally, what you have across the board, this is why I mentioned postmodernism earlier. This is why I mentioned Ben Shapiro and Andrew Neil earlier. Is given enough time, given enough rope, people are going to hang themselves on their own ideology. Huh? They're going to start telling you, well, I didn't really mean that, and this part of it, and they just make complete hypocrites of themselves. This is what you're seeing with feminism now. The unforgivable sin, once again, the unforgivable sin, cultivating both spaces, is that white women and white men weaponized black women against black men. You know, a couple weeks ago, there was a big uproar in Iran, and it was a whole uprising. And rumor has it that the US had agents in Iran. It's not just a rumor, or maybe it's a rumor, allegedly. That little small slice of Europe had its own espionage people in Iran. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Don't put it in the comments. And as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, the US president said something about the clandestine people from that little slice of Europe being in Iran. Essentially to foment the uprising, to fund the uprising, to back the uprising, to organize the uprising. Whether the uprising was organic or not is not what Mr. Z is debating here. And I'm sorry about my background, right? But what I am saying is, if the rumor is to be believed, what you were witnessing is what you witnessed in Iran in 1953, which was the overthrow of a democratic leader. And that overthrow was through a revolt, an uprising that was funded by the US government. Operation Ajax, if I'm not mistaken. If the US is doing that overseas and has been engaging in that overseas, as a matter of fact, the US backed the rebels of Colombia, and that's how you get Panama. That's how you got the Panama Canal. If the US has been doing that overseas for at least a century now, what exactly would it take for the US to engage in that with the 13% or so of black people in America? It wouldn't take anything to disrupt the internal politics of this group of people who you see as the permanent underclass of your nation, of your society anyway. Huh? The unforgivable sin of white women was weaponizing black women against white men. That does not mean that black women don't have their own agency. That does not mean that black women don't have their own politics that might diverge from black men's politics. We appreciate that. We get it. Clearly, black men get it. With that, white people, white men and white women, not allowing for black men and black women to come to their own decision without tampering, that is the unforgivable sin. Cultivating bold spaces. That's the part of the conversation you did not engage with and engage in. Huh? Continuing. As a matter of fact, before we continue, let me read the Arena Revised super chats. And the Arena Revised says Henry Cavill ain't getting 1 out of 10 of the smoke Marcus Houston did. And Marcus married the young lady he did. Black women cheered when they separated. Of course, look, you're not supposed to win. Black women see Marcus Houston, and I think she was 19 when he married her, and he was in his late 30s. I think about late 30s, if I'm not mistaken. They saw him as cheating. It has nothing to do with her being a little girl and innocent. Appreciate this. And I know you're older than me, Arena Revive, so I know I'm preaching to the choir. The women are rarely gonna say what their actual issue is. That's why when they actually say it, you know, Mr. Z, that's why I'll be like, send that to me. I need that. Keep on playing now. Huh? That's why I'm saving these videos when women actually say it and leave no space for wiggle room, no space for interpretation. When men, black men in specific, let's talk about black men in specific. When black men engage in passport bros, when black men date someone, marry someone significantly younger than them, when black men date outside the black race, right? When black women see it is it's not fair. You're cheating. Your resources should go to me. You're leaving me out here in the wilderness. It's not fair. There's a clip I play, and the white woman says essentially who you should be with, who I should be with, who I should end up with. And it says everything right there. It's not fair. Don't expect women to actually admit that and say that outright. Every once in a while, they'll fall onto it by mistake while speaking. Because what women are grappling with when it comes to intimate relationship with men is the limits of their autonomy when they run into the wall of men's autonomy. What women are grappling with their decenter men talk, and they're not entertaining the male gaze, the G-A-Z-E gaze. What they're running into the wall of is men also have standards, requirements. Now, will men have triple X fun with just about anyone? Maybe. But as I say often, marriage is where it's really at, because that lets you know, particularly for men, what he's actually willing to invest time, energy, and willing to die for. Who he give that last name to. Huh? So when Marcus Houston marries the 19-year-old, it's not fair. This 19-year-old is going to get to enjoy one of the wealth and the status and the income from the lead singer of Immature? Marcus Houston was on Sister Sister, lead singer Immature. It's not fair. Don't expect them to say it's not fair. Just expect for them to pretend like they're concerned for the young lady, the 19-year-old. Huh? Because what are they saying? He's taking advantage of her. He's getting someone young, dumb, and naive. He's getting someone who's inexperienced. In other words, he's getting someone who's not going to challenge him in his every word. He's getting someone who's not going to talk back, who's not going to be sassy, who's not going to be snarky. Huh? Yeah. Because you're not supposed to have that as a man. Why would you want that? It sounds like you're insecure. Why would you want a woman on your program? Huh? Why don't you man up and deal with the real woman who's going to challenge your every word and be mean about it, regardless of how educated you are, your status, your money, or any of it? Why are you dealing with the little girls? Huh? Of course they're going to frame it like that. But really, it's that it's not fair. You are supposed to end up with a woman of your similar age. So you're supposed to end up with maybe a Maya. Huh? Who's around Marcus Houston age right now? About mid 40s ish. Huh? That's who you're supposed to end up with. The Brandys, the Mayas. I know Monica been married how many times? I have how many kids? But the Monicas, right? That's who you're supposed to end up with. The women that were out around the same time as you when they were making big, that's who you're supposed to end up with. So at least I could see power couple goals. Oh man. So yeah, and Henry Cavill doesn't get the same smoke because white women know they don't run nothing over there. Now, did a few liberal white women say something about it? Of course, a few liberal white women had something to say about Henry Cavill, but for the most part, it wasn't the same thing. Why? Because white society isn't a gynocracy. Maybe bordering a matriarchy, but it's not a gynocracy. Huh? Let Whoopi Goldberg say it again.
Well, look, for me, it has never really been about black man or man. It's been about men. Mm-hmm. There's this myth out there that black men can't handle being spoken to, and told what to do by black women. Black men come from our bodies. Yeah. So black men have black mothers. So they're used to having these conversations with women.
The matriarchy is strong with the black
community. It is very
community.
strong.
Yeah.
Conversations with women.
The matriarchy is strong with the black
It is
community.
very strong.
Yeah. The matriarchy is strong with...
Yep. And that's why black women think they could tell you what you could do with your genitalia, with your private parts, with a consenting adult, with another consenting adult. That's why they think they could shame you for passport bros. That's why they think they could shame you when you date out and marry out. That's why they think they could shame you when you're dating someone who's significantly younger than you, marrying someone significantly younger than you. That's why they think they could shame you, because even within the black race, you might prefer someone lighter than a brown paper bag. Because the black community, as Whoopi said, is a matriarchy. Mr. Z and the rest of us say gynocracy. Either way. They think they have a say because they're black women. And in the black community, black women run this. At least so they thought. Huh? So thank you for the super chat, Arena Revised. Thank you for the super chat. I know we have another one from you. And the Arena Revised says, and thank you for the super chat again, feminism has not relieved the pressure on men to succeed. Warren Farrell, The Myth of Male Power, 1993. When you marginalize the mild-mannered Dr. Farrell, you get the rude, bombastic Andrew Tate. I agree. I agree. Huh? Women ran into the market cap of equality. And they want men that are in better positions than them, earn more than them, are taller than them, are stronger than them to get that little Johnny wet. Huh? That's why Mr. Z has been spamming this goddamn video for the past 2 weeks. Play it again, Z.
How old are you?
I'm 29.
Are you single?
Yes.
Why are you single right now?
Because the men are not enough rich to take care of me.
So you're looking for a rich man?
Yes. Yes, I want to be spoiled.
Why does he have to be rich?
Because I want to be spoiled. Because I make my own money and I need to be dominated.
That's why I've been spamming that. She said it and she left no space for interpretation. Let's pause right here. To all my subscribers, to all my listeners, shout out to y'all. Thank you for the email. Shout out to Saint Cyr. Shout out to Vince. There's a bunch of you. Shout out to Leon. There's a bunch of you that stay sending me videos. Shout out to Black Uru. All right? Shout out to all of you. Pat on the back. When it's this blatant and bold, I need that link. Please send it. Mr. Z don't even have a TikTok. I don't even have a TikTok channel. Then how the hell are you able to download these videos, Z? Magic. Anyway, whenever, especially when it's this blatant. Huh? Notice she's not angry, she's not aggressive, she's not mean, at least from what we can see here. But she stated it so blatantly, she leaves no space. Huh? So to all the feminists and intersectional feminists and all those that speak about being anti-patriarchy and anti-systems of oppression, and the problem is the hierarchy that men want to impose on women, what can you say to this? Do you know how many women think and feel this? Some of them speak around it. Some of them don't say it at all. But this is, I would argue, the prevailing sentiment for women. Women that work, women that earn their own money. This is the prevailing sentiment. Sometimes they say it angrily. Sometimes they essentially say, what incentive? Shout out to Real Talk with Yeti. What's the incentive? Sometimes they say, what can a man do for me? I've done traveled here. I've been there. I've done this. I could do this for myself. But all of that is saying this right here. When you peel back the layers, they're all saying this. I make my own money. I need a man to dominate. The women that say it angrily, they're angry at the world because they're earning $150,000 a year by the age of 29, 200,000. So they're earning far more than the men of their same age cohort. They're earning far more than the men a decade older than them. Huh? So everything is seen as settling for them. Huh? And so they speak like this. So as the Reader Revised is saying, and as Warren Farrell is saying, feminism has not relieved the pressure on men to succeed above the women. Ooh. Women may speak about emotionally intelligent. Women may speak about domestic labor. Huh? Women may speak about just being in tune with your feelings. It's not, there's nothing wrong with crying and all this crap they're spewing. But if you don't come with that check first, you might get a pass if you're tall enough and good looking enough for a little while, initially. But if you don't come with that check first, if she's not attracted to you first, none of that means anything. That's what the friend zone is for. Goddamn, Z. The friend zone is for all you guys that check off all the boxes except for either the money or the physical attraction or both. You're in the friend zone. She like everything about you except for the way you look, or you don't earn enough, or maybe both. You the friend zone. You Mr. Friend Zone. Uh-oh. Huh? Yeah. Feminism has not relieved the pressure on men to succeed above that individual woman or above women. And we have reached a point where enough women are doing well enough financially where they're essentially saying it, and every once in a while they'll just come out and say it. Not enough men earn enough more than me. I don't need a man that earns $5,000 more than me a year. I earn 55, he earns 60. That's not good enough. If I earn 55, he need to earn 85, 105, 150. Huh? Yeah. And you're watching that play out in your society. And the Arena Revised, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Huh? Let's read Gilgamesh now. And Gilgamesh says, is the caveat in Briefeld's law most manifest in behavioral sync dynamics. The males of the species decreasing interest in pursuit for the females. Yeah, the I wanted to say Moynihan report so bad. The Calhoun experiment. Yeah. The Must Utopia experiment. Yes. And so shout out to Nema, wherever you are, Nema, who reminded us that it was the men, the male of the species that were the beautiful ones. They were the ones who were grooming themselves all day, right? They resigned themselves to their little cubby, and they were the ones grooming themselves all day. Well, when you look at Japan, if I'm not mistaken, the shut-ins, the hikikomoris, are mainly boys and men. When you look at this air quotes male loneliness epidemic, it's just men not being outside, or at least not engaging in society in ways that would force them to overproduce for the same asshole women that mock them and make fun of them and call them all type of incels. Huh? Yeah. So yeah, Gilgami, yeah, that's as the environment becomes more toxic. Shout out to KMS, too much pain in the system. This is how you're going to see men move. Feminism did one thing for men. It did one thing for men. Just one. And that was not supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to happen. If it liberated women, it also liberated men. And that was not supposed to happen. That's what women are incensed by now. And you're watching men say, as KMS said, too much pain in the system, I'm not going to engage. It's too much pain in the system to take on a girlfriend, a wife, some children, these goddamn 400 and 450 and 500 plus $1,000 homes. It's just too much. 50-year mortgages proposed, 15-year car notes. Yeah, no, I'm good. Talks of real men overproduce, real men take on a wife and some kids. I'm alright. So the men, like the Mouse Utopia experiment, have decided to be the beautiful ones. Well, check that birth rate. Right? I'm not saying it's manly. I'm not saying any of that. I am saying the same thing Andrew Tate said. If you're telling 90 or at least 80% of the men in your society that if they don't find a way, cheat, steal, stab, delete their way into the top 20%, then they get what they get. Instead of risking debilitating divorce, being divorce raped, instead of risking that, they might as well not engage, and that's what they're doing. Instead of risking signing yourself up for a $500,000 home, 450, 420 home, and then having to sign up for how many gigs with your 9 to 5 and doing hustle culture and trying to come up with a business idea or a business plan worth a damn, mess around and lose your job, and now you're kicked out of your home. Instead of engaging in that, and the men have decided to not engage. Oh man. And Lion says, actually, didn't liberate men. It didn't liberate men. To make men liberated, something a law would have to have been actually put in place to actually benefit us. Men simply said, F it. I'm saying you don't have to play the role anymore. So, like, when I say it benefited us, women inadvertently liberated men when they liberated themselves. But that wasn't supposed to happen. That's not actually what they signed up for. They actually signed up for you still having to play the manly role, both in the relationship and just as a participant in society, right? As a good Samaritan, we'll say. But it inadvertently freed you from having to play that role. And women detest that. The elites detest that. And you're right about men saying F it. But in yesteryear, men didn't have the ability to say F it. You were the weirdo. No children at all? 40, 50 years ago, no children? Right? You just gonna be out there? Yeah, people expected you to be a bachelor for a little while, but not well into your 40s. Not for a lifetime. Right? So that was not supposed to happen. And well, we're here now. Yeah. And Lion, thank you for that comment. Thank you for the comment. And let me read this. And Tunnel Runner says you can and it's not showing me the picture, so I'm sorry about that, Tunnel Runner. But or the meme or the I said everything but what I need to say, the emoji. And Tunnel Runner says you can blank dominate with $100,000 overseas Africa, South America, Asia. Yes, we can. Si se puede. I know what you're gonna say. I know. Right? Yeah. And Gilgami says something even Queen Victoria was concerned about. Men going, yeah. Yep. And yeah, look, I agree with BGS when BGS says you can't have too many in your society be red pill. You can't maintain a society that way. But the environment is forcing the young men to be red pill. As KMS says, once again, the pain in the system, it's too much pain in the system that's forcing the men to be red pill. This overly financialized environment, you see it more and more people say it. I'm just saying, y'all know where y'all heard it first. This overly financialized environment, the way we socialize women and girls, the way elites have been able to run amok and gobble up all the wealth, all the opportunities. Talking about Dr. Richard Reeves, as I've said before, shout out to the Roger Report, he probably remembers. I entered the door saying dream hoarders. It's not just the top 1%, it's the top 20%. And by the way, some of us, even in the Black Minister, at least by income, we're in the top 20%. We may not have that social power, and maybe our politics don't align with the folks that say that to hell with everyone else, I'm about me and mine. Like brutally, in the ugliest way. So maybe we're in the top 20% because of income, but not because of wealth. Our parents are not leaving us anything. We pretty much just surviving off our own talents and right, our own hard work and our own merit. Right? So yeah. There's a cost to all of this. There's a societal cost. I've tried to emphasize that on my channel, to take a top-down view, to take a more macroscopic view. Not micro, but macro view of these things. That's why y'all notice, like, I talk about the women, obviously. I talk about their misbehavior, how wayward they are, how they pose a threat, not just to Black men, but to themselves, right? But I also speak about the macro. If we Thanos snapped our fingers tomorrow and Black women were on Black men's program, no more children out of wedlock, no more Keisha them, no more snarky feminist, you would still have a problem. What the hell you do with the elite whites that are messing up everything? Okay, now you got your nuclear Black families. Surviving off of what? Huh? Just saying. Either way, we're eventually gonna have to deal with the elite whites and some of their henchmen, the elite Blacks, the elite Latinos, the elite Asians, but mainly the elite whites. Eventually, you're gonna have to deal with the hoarding of wealth. But it's not just wealth; it's the opportunities. It's the American life. Ooh, now that part you wasn't supposed to say, Z. That hurt. Huh? Man. Big Mo, I'm just saying. I think that's what happened. I think I thought that's what happened from the beginning. From the beginning, I thought that's what it was. Huh? Now, Mr. Z does hold out that 1% that I could be wrong, and it really was what it was. What was reported. There's a reason why I'm not highlighting the comment, everyone. Y'all check out Big Mo's comment. Y'all know what I'm talking about. But from the beginning, I was pretty much 99%. That's okay. Put it this way. Mr. Z was definitely F the facts and what's being told. This is how I feel. And I was willing to stand on that. I didn't care what the court was saying, what the case said. From the beginning, I was like, no, she deleted him because they had something going on. And it didn't work out the way she wanted. Oh, but she's engaged. I didn't care nothing about that. Huh? That was definitely one of those Mr. Z said, F your facts. Now, yeah, Mr. Z definitely on that one, F your facts. Huh? So, yeah. And Leon says, black men are IHR, aka income hood rich. Yeah, the black men with a few dollars, yeah. They definitely income hood rich. They're not wealth rich. Most of us are not well. And when I say most black, I'm talking about like 99, 98% of black people are not wealth rich. For the ones that are rich or any type of upper middle class, it's straight income. Maybe you get a couple of, as Antonio Moore says, Tone Talk says, boomer hooked millennials, maybe the youngest of Xers, if they're super lucky. Maybe when you start getting under the age of 50, you get a couple of black people with some wealth because they got left the house from their grandparents, if they're super lucky, but probably not, from their parents, and their parents didn't squander the wealth, if you're super lucky. But yeah, I think you're not gonna get to like wealth rich for a black people until you start getting to the youngest of millennials, and definitely Gen Z, because their extra parents maybe knew better, moved the right way, just took advantage of just everything, knowingly and unknowingly, just were born at the right time, took advantage of the right opportunities. The door or the window didn't close on them for Jim Crow yet, or the repeal of Jim Crow laws, when it was like, okay, we just need a black face in this space. And so you're the perfectly timed millennial or Gen Z black person to benefit from all of that from your parents. And then you then went to school yourself and went to the right school and right opportunity. I'm speaking about a few thousand people at most, few tens of thousands of people at most. If you're lucky, maybe a couple 100,000 black people. If you're stupid lucky, that number is that high. I don't even think it's a few 100,000 black people, to be honest with you. I think tens of thousands at most. I'm talking about the wealth rich, not the income hood rich. The income hood rich, I think you could find those obviously way easier than the wealth rich black folks, even under the age of 50. But I will grant that under the age of 40, it might be a bit easier to find, because under the age of 40, definitely under the age of 30, under the age of 30, your parents are like in their mid 50s, maybe 60 some odd, early 60s, maybe. And so they might have did the right things. They didn't squander the wealth, so you gonna be okay wealth-wise. And then if you went to the right schools and did the right things, you're in your early 30s, late 20s. And so you just won. You just got super lucky. Not saying you didn't work hard, not saying you didn't do the right things, but You got super lucky being part of the lucky egg and lucky sperm club, and then you did the right thing, so you just winning with it. So think of Sarge Willie Pete, in other words, right? Sarge Willie Pete is the example of what Mr. Z is speaking about. Huh? But Sarge Willie Pete is in his like mid-40s. I'm saying you'll be more likely to find, as a percentage of the black population, a Sarge Willie Pete under the age of about 35. And Leon, thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the super chat. Right. So, all right, y'all. Look, I just wanted to address Miss UK Mary Poppins cultivating bold spaces, and shout out to her. I meant no disrespect. I hope it didn't come off that way, but I did want to, yeah. And Saint Cyr says, Z, stop talking about my life, bro. It's literally all timing and opportunities. And look, I don't begrudge people that just won the lottery. You just won. You were just born at the right time to the right parents. You did what you were supposed to do, air quotes supposed to do. And so that's the income part, right? You work at the right place. You're not biting off too much life. Right? Saint Cyr, you said you got a new Accord. You didn't go for the used luxury car that's going to kill you. You didn't go for some exotic V8, you know, M5 or something, or 550 M Sport. Right? And then you didn't try to overspend on a baby luxury car. So that's the income part, but the wealth part is your parents or grandparents, what they're leaving you and what they've invested in you throughout your life, right? So, yeah. And, you know, I don't begrudge, when people have that situation, that's great, right? And Krabby says, and I'm gonna frame it a little different. I know what you're saying though. Is there a U.S. Mary Poppins? Not that I know of. We just call her UK Mary Poppins because I know Mary Poppins is UK. I know. But we call her UK Mary Poppins because that's what we just call her. Somebody said it and I just adopted it. Someone said it in the comments when I first played it. I want to say it was Troll, but someone said it and then we just started using it. But not that I know of. Y'all, if y'all could find me a US Mary Poppins, we could put her video on rotation also. Yeah. And Big Mo said, well, he's still black, so he still isn't seen as superior in this society. True. Right. So, all right, y'all. So on that note, we will pause right there. Love, piece of chicken grease. Oh man, and we will do Tunnel Runner a solid as we end out. We're gonna do Tunnel Runner a solid, because he did mention the word dominate. So I'm gonna play Miss Eastern European lady one more again on the way out the door. So we'll play that for cultivating bold spaces. I wanted to say idea so bad. Cultivating bold spaces. We're gonna play that for Forward Man and Forward Land, and we're gonna play that for Tunnel Runner as we end out. And so we'll pause right here. Love, piece of chicken grease. Y'all go check out other Black Manosphere content, other non-Manosphere content, for the love of God. And Mr. Z out. All right, y'all have a great rest of y'all day.
How old are you?
I'm 29.
Are you single?
Yes.
Why are you single right now?
Because the men are not enough rich to take care of me.
So you're looking for a rich man?
Yes. Yes, I want to be spoiled.
Why does he have to be rich?
Because I want to be spoiled. Because I make my own money and I need to be dominated.
Address that, Miss Cultivating Bold Spaces. All right, y'all, Mr. Z out.
You are now listening to Mr. ZBlackneffect.